Okay, so now that we have these unique slugs, we need to add our URLs for those any of those products, right? We need to be able to actually go to the URL for that specific product. So to do this, we're going to do it a couple different ways. The first way we're going to do it is I'm going to show you how to do it by accepting any variable for our URL, and then I'm going to show you how to accept an ID, so like the instance ID. And then lastly, I'll show you how to actually only accept a slug and using the slug field itself. So go ahead and open up your urls.py. And just to note, if you don't understand exactly what I said just there, you'll see what I mean here shortly. So if I copy this and paste it below, I'm going to keep products as the beginning of the URL. And then right after that, this is where we're going to put our slug. We're going to put it inside of these parentheses. But I'm just going to have those parentheses for now. And then products.views.single, that's what we're going to call it, and then we're going to call it single_product for the URL name. All right, so now we actually need to create that view for single. But before we do that, I just want to tell you that right here, this is going to be an argument that's going to be passed into this view. So we're actually adding a new argument in here. So if I go to views, I'm going to go ahead and copy all, paste it underneath it, and it's going to take in request and slug. So this is that second argument that I just mentioned. And then rename the view to single, and all we're going to do now is print slug. We don't have to worry too much about this stuff. We just want to see what's actually going to be passed. So in our URL, inside of these parentheses, the first one we're going to do is accept kind of any value in here and set it to the variable name of slug. So I'll do $P less than, and then slugs, and then greater than dot star. So this is taking pretty much any value in there, and it's setting it equal to P, or to slug. All right, so let's actually try that out. Go into our URLs, and we type out product, and then I can type out whatever I want here. And it changes it with %20 and all that. It is saying page not found, right? So that might not be exactly what we want, and that I already see why is because we just did product. So if I add an S here, it doesn't say page not found. It actually shows us some stuff, and what it's showing us is this view stuff right here. So this view is actually working, and if we go into the terminal, it shows the slug. Well, that's not really a slug, as we've seen slugs before. That is really not one, but what it shows us is that how we set up this URL, it's accepting anything in here as an argument, right? So it's actually going to take through and just allow all of this stuff to come through, and that's also all being printed here. Now that's kind of cool. That's good to know that that exists, but it's not the best in our case, right? We want it to be more specific to whatever we're going to be working with, which in this case, it's a product model. So our URL, let's actually change it so it takes in the ID. So I'm going to get rid of the dot star and change it to /d+. And now what this regular expression is saying, it's only going to be a number or a digit, and that's going to be assigned to slug. So let's try that out. If I refresh what I just did, it's going to say it's not found. However, it is looking for the number 1. So if I just get rid of all this and just keep a couple numbers, it now comes through and it will print out that number. So what I could do with this number, it's actually a little bit more useful for me. So in my view, I can actually do product equals to product.objects.get ID equals to slug. Well, we probably would want to call this ID as well if we were actually using ID. So let's just change it all to ID and change this to ID. All right, so now that we have that, if we go in here and refresh with the number 23, it says product matching query does not exist. So that product 23 is not actually real, right? So the product with the ID of 23 is not there because we don't have 23 items. We have 3 of them. So if I do 2, it shows, hey, this is actually the product it's going to be doing. So in order for us to see that, we go back into our view and we can print product.title. All right. And I refactored my code in my models to have the Unicode doing self.title. Just so you know, if you don't have that, just go ahead and change it to that. All right, so now now I can actually see what product it is. So I save that, and then I go in here and I do a refresh, and it says 2, product 2. It's perfect. That's exactly what we wanted. Well, maybe it's not exactly what we wanted. First of all, if it's not in there, so if I did 22, it's going to say this. This is an error. This is not something we want our users to see. So I'm going to wrap it into a try and exception. So just do try. And basically it's trying, it's looking for this. So if it's there, then it's going to work. If it's not there, it's going to raise an exception. So in this case, this is an exception of the object does not exist. So you could do except product does not exist. You can use that as the exception, or since well, if there is any exception, we just, in this case, we would just want to raise a 404 error, right? So I imported on shortcuts HTTP 404, so raise HTTP 404. So if the product doesn't exist, it's going to try and find it, and then if it doesn't, it'll raise the 404 error, which is good. That's what we would want to see. So now if I do a refresh, all it says is page not found, versus that other one where if I did like this, it says page not found, but then it says it's looking in here. This is a way for us to debug what's going on, versus what I had just a second ago. This is me purposely raising a 404 error because that page does not exist. All right, well, that's good, but you know, what if we literally only have 23 products? Should we really show an ID for that product? Now, it makes sense if we had this many products, right, to maybe have an ID like that. But even with that, we probably want to have the slug, and that's what slugs are all about, is having a slug here instead. So then this URL is easier to read, it's easier to share, it's easier to remember, all types of reasons why we would use something like this versus something like that. So let's actually refactor our code, which means change our code or improve our code, to get rid of ID and just change it to slug. So everything in here, we're just going to change the ID to slug. And since it's now unique in our model, since it's unique now, this get function will work. It's not going to return multiple items of that same slug. So if I save this, and then in my URLs, I just need to change ID to slug. And then I need to update my regular expression to handle a slug a little bit better than what we see here. So I'm going to get rid of this and do /w minus and put another bracket. And then that's that. That will actually make it so it only accepts a slug. You don't have to know how this works exactly to know that it does work. I'll even make notes of the ID and the all. So I'll do $P all items, or all underscore items, and then dot star, and then I'm going to do the ID one for us too, so you guys can have this as reference on how you would actually work with something like this. All right. And then all this slash, this is the trailing slash, and that $sign, all it's saying is this string is done. That's it. So it's not going to keep looking any further than that. And something else that's kind of nice about how these arguments work is we can actually chain them together. So if I really wanted to, I could put an ID right here too. And then that would be 2 arguments that could go into my view right here. I would be able to do that, and they actually go in order of when they show up. They go, so it'd be slug ID, not ID slug. All right, so I'm going to get rid of that and just keep it as slug, and get rid of that comma there. All right, so now we can actually try this out. I have product 1, that is a real slug. So if I refresh, not to that one, but to product 1, press enter, it shows me some of this stuff. Well, that's cool. So now our URL is actually working, our view is actually working. So all we actually have to do now is just change this stuff to handle just the product. We need to change our context and our template just to handle that one single product. So we can get rid of products. We can change products as the context to product, and then we can change this to single. All right, I don't need to print the title anymore because we know it's working. And I can also add single.html to my products templates. So single.html, save it as that. I'm just calling it single because it's one, right? It's not versus all. It's not all the products. It's one single product. All right. So in here, we are going to extend the base. So extends base.html, as we've seen a lot, and then block content, and in block, and then h1 product.title. Putting this header just so we can see it in action. So if I refresh in here, now it says product title, and then if I go to product 2, it says product 2, and then so on and so forth. All right, so in the next one, we actually need to create those final links for this, and that's what we'll do here shortly. It's pretty easy to do, but there's a few different ways on how we can do it, so we will show you how to do that in the next one. See you then.